A pleasant day and a warm welcome to the program Law and Order, a program where we discuss the legal issues and giving you solutions to survive in this environment without letting you in trouble. So ladies and gentlemen, with a series of programs, today we are stepping on to a new topic, entrepreneurship and business. So to do the honors with us, we do have a thorough gentleman, an expert in the field. He is Mr. Prashant Laldial, Vice President's Council. Thank you very much, sir, for joining with us.
Pleasure.
Right. So today we are going to discuss about entrepreneurship and business, which might be a timely important topic as we see young people are enthusiastic to put up their own business and come up with new innovations. So to do the startup and give a quick start for this session, let's define what entrepreneurship is.
Charith, if you take Charitha, the basic definition is that it's a person who get involved in the business taking risk. Now that's the important one.
Right.
Taking risk to get the maximum profit. Now that's the basic definition, Charitha.
Right. Okay. So when it comes to taking risk, I'm going to deviate within the limits. Sometimes a person might be inventing, or there might be a novel creation from his side. So to take the risk and to secure his boundaries, what are the legal scenarios that they are dealing with?
Exactly. Now the best method, I would say, you know, in order to get a profit would be something like a pyramid scam. You know, there is a pyramid scam.
Yes.
Everybody knows that you get involved, finally you are supposed to get a huge profit. But that is an offense under the Banking Act. So you have to be very, very careful when you get into the business. I mean, any normal layman would think pyramid scam is a normal, natural thing. But that affects the financial system of a country. And therefore, the law has made it an offense. So therefore, business like that, an entrepreneur must always and should look at the law of that area. That's, I believe, we can discuss today.
Sure, certainly. And sir, like moving a little bit in deep in that, the pyramid scam, so the one person is suggesting the other to involve in this, nothing to do harm, but to just to put up their own finance to buy this thing and join.
Exactly.
So how it become an offense and it affects the financial system?
Very interesting question, Charitha. That's because as it goes on, at some point it has to break. Because that's not if you take, I mean, how can that survive in the long run?
Right.
At one point it has to break, and that will bash or damage the financial system, Charitha. Now that we cannot allow to affect the system, and that is why the Banking Act makes it an offense.
So like that is like one of the most concernable thing, that entrepreneurs must not deal with pyramid scams, as our guest said, that it's affecting the financial system and the integrity of a country. So moving on a little bit further, now apart from that pyramid scams, we gave advice to the entrepreneurs not to initiate such things, and if they are to implement a business, what are the concernable things that they have to think?
Absolutely. I think as you started, it is very clear that we need entrepreneurs. We need young people. Today's in the context, young people are very vibrant in the social, political arena. Same should be in the business world. That's exactly what this program is all about. In that kind of a scenario, the moment you start a business, I advise, I suggest that you should look at the laws of the country as to that. May I take just two examples?
Exactly, sir.
Like say, if you want to get involved in a food industry, you want to prepare food and deliver, and you are very good in cooking, and you get a staff to do that. In that kind of a context, you must look at the Food Act that came in 1980. Now, there are so many regulations about preservatives and so many things. So the first thing you should get hold of is the Food Act, if you want to do that, which came in 1980, and the regulations governing the Food Act. Now that will give you a complete idea that is there. So simply go to the internet, go under Food Act, find the regulations, find the law, and do that. And most importantly, there is a Consumer Affairs Authority Act that came in 2003. So that deals with consumers. Now entrepreneur means you are handling with consumers. Everyone is a consumer. You take everyone is a consumer. You, me, president to the most poorest poor of the poor is a consumer. So that governs the entire gamut of services, goods. So if you are keen on becoming entrepreneur, you must look at the Consumer Affairs Authority Act, which is very important. Right? Covers the entire gamut, entire scope of this. So I just gave you 2 examples. But in whatever there is, as you know, law is there to govern a proper system.
Simply we say, if there is a will, there is a lawsuit.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yes.
Because law is life. Charita. And every aspect of the human being, in order to govern that, in order to be prim and proper, you need the law. So you must know, if you are getting into a business as an entrepreneur, you must understand that there is a law, and you can always Google, you can ask a friend of yours. You don't need to spend money at the beginning, because you are an entrepreneur, you are trying with your ideas. But it is very simple. You go there, it is in all 3 languages. And you can read and make a note and jot down and understand specific, as I said, if it is food, the Food Act, and the entire consumer affairs, and whatever any other thing that you do, there is a law.
There is a law, and we have to do a small research part on that.
Absolutely.
And prepare well ourselves. And especially one of the most concernable things is that Consumer Affairs Authority Act. You have to think, you have to research on that and make a surrounding to that their business. And so, like, moving a little bit apart, financing the business. So they have certain concerns, they might not have the proper finance. How about the financing for a business is implemented?
It's a very interesting and a very most important thing is finance. I mean, without finance, you can't start a business. You need finance to start up the capital, build up the infrastructure, maybe, basic buildings or whatever, vehicles or whatever, you need money. Now that's a capital. And even in order to run it, that's not the capital. In order to get revenue, you have to spend on day-to-day things, on your staff or even few people that you're going to employ at the outset. You need basically finance.
Yes.
So unless you are rich, I mean, generally the entrepreneurs are not rich people, son or whatever, right? It is the newcomer with a new vibrant idea. So that is a very crucial one, and you must and should get finance either 2 ways. One, you go to a bank and get a loan,
right?
And the other way is to make it a company and get people involved with shares, and you sell your idea. Now in foreign countries there are TV programs where you sell an idea and the investors come in and they spend on the infrastructure, and the idea, the person who brings also is a substantial shareholder. So there are TV programs encouraging that.
Yes.
At the moment it's not very strong here, but we need to have it. But whatever said and done, you need to understand that it is the business that matters. So if it is a brilliant idea, you have to sell that idea and get the people on board to get you money. So it is either a bank that gives you a loan, and it is a capital. But I want to make a significant difference. But if you get people to spend for you, like through shares, you don't have to pay interest. Right? So you have a little space of time with the understanding of the people who are spending on you, right? You can have some time period to breathe and to develop your business. But if you take a loan from a bank, there is a problem. You have to start paying the capital and the interest. At the beginning it will be more interest, later capital. So that's the issue that you need to keep in mind. So it's the best method. We can can discuss how to set about. I suggest, I'm a banker. I've been in the financial sector for almost 22 years as a director of a bank and a financial institute even now. So continuously I've been there. So even being that, I don't advise you to get that as the first option. I like to stress that. First option. Best is to go and try to find shares or people to invest in you. Maybe your friend, simple. I mean, maybe there is a friend who would like to work with you as a partner. So you give the idea and you give your expertise, you give your thinking or working. If you are good in painting or batik or whatever, then you give that input into it and get your friend or outsiders to invest on your project. That would be the best viable way of doing things and a more long, sustainable way of doing business.
And we clearly contrasted the financing of loan and to make the people involved in our business. So as we were clarifying the issue, our guest speaker, he was clarifying that rather than taking a loan from the bank, it's better to make people invest in your business, because you have a small time period in order to build up your business, and because you don't need to pay an interest for the people who are involved with. So when it comes to the business structure, that might be like involving with shares, there's a particular business structure, the enterprise and private limited, public limited. Can we just clearly explain our viewers about that structure as well?
Yes. Basic structure we can go into nitty-gritties of later, but I will first explain to you the structure of it. Either you can be a sole proprietor, that means you invest, you have the money, but as we said, not all best top class entrepreneurs do not have funds of their own. So it can be a sole proprietor. But then we can become a partnership. It's a partnership. We call it partnership, where 2 or 3 or many get together as partnership. Now that has a lot of repercussions. You want me to explain repercussions now?
We'll move on to repercussions later. Sir.
Yes. So partnership is one. Then you go to a private company, private limited liability company. Right. Now that is, we call it, in this name you will have, say, name PVT Limited, private limited. Now that's a private company. That means shareholders are limited, and it is not sold in the public market. But then you can opt to even go to be a public company, and you call it, you will see PLC behind that name. Now that means it is traded every day in the share market. Right? So that's it. So there are different pluses and minuses in all these three. So as an entrepreneur, you need to choose, look at the future, not immediate, your stability, because I'm sure you don't want to invest your money and idea and get finally lost and thrown out by others. So you need to look at repercussions which we can.
Yes, we'll continue with the repercussions as well. I think the viewers might get an idea about the structure.
Now, sole proprietorship is yours. I mean, you take decisions, you do everything, you take the profit, you do it. So that's fully, you have the control. Partnership is a very interesting one, and here, if you want to register this, you have to go to a provincial council. There is a register of company there, and you register there in the provincial council that you belong. So that itself will show you that it is a lesser liability. Right? But lesser gravity, I'll put it that way. Now the issue of partnership is, now say you and I become a partner, Charita, we both are personal liable. We take a loan from a bank, your personal money, your personal asset has to be sold if it has to be paid. My personal thing, properties can be sold. Right? So that's a problem in partnership, where you are personally liable in an event of, if you have to pay any debtor or bank or whatever. So that's about the partnership, the repercussions you have. But it's more fluid, more, say you and I have a very good understanding. So we become partners and we say, Machanga, why don't you put some money today? Just I'm saying colloquial, right? So it's very fluid, very flexible, right? There is no formalities as such, not having a mandatory auditors. It's the understanding of the two people that matters in a partnership. Now, private company is little more serious, because that is governed by register of companies. You have to send annual reports to your shareholders. You have to get an external auditor to account your audit. And therefore, every year you have to send the annual report. And if you don't send the annual report, even a private company, you will be fined by the register of company. Now that's interesting. Because that becomes a private company governed by the register of companies. That's an institution of its own in the government. So it is registered. Now public company is much more serious. It is because it's traded in the public. So we can again go, we have to first give a prospectus. Prospectus is where you are inviting your shareholders, you have to divulge all the information about your banker, the lawyers, so much of formalities. Advice. In that kind of a prospectus, you need to disclose everything, and if you don't, and if you give false, it's offense. Because you are asking for money from the public. not private. So that is much more serious, much more serious, much more repercussions. So it is heavily governed. As I said, you need a prospectus to us, otherwise it's a private. Like you use Charita, why don't you invest in this company? And with that kind of formality. But in a public company, you can't. You need to have a prospectus. All that is under the company's law. Right? So it's not, even private companies are under company's law, but public company is governed by the Security Exchange Commission, SEC. And the Colombo Stock Exchange is where this money, dealings of shares happen daily, every day. You can buy and sell the shares. So the repercussions are high. The repercussions are that you might lose your business. Because somebody else after a little while might come and buy your shares, buy the share which is in the market. And start dictating to you. So that's the issue when you go public. And that is why there is a reluctance at the beginning of an entrepreneur to go public, because he might lose his whole idea and the business.
When it comes to the play with the share market, it should be very concernable. And we have to be very strict, and we have to have a thorough idea on that.
It's a real fight. I mean that's not a market. Share market we can discuss later if you want to, but share market is a very bloodthirst, kind of place where you draw your blood. Right? There is no, if you when I are trading, right? It is like I trade. It's hard, and I want to make money. It is very tight, and there are a lot of manipulations. I'll put it that way. Right? You put the share price up, and then put it down and earn a big money, right? So it's not a safe place for an innocent, good, entrepreneur at the beginning. But when he grows big, he should make it. He must make it public company. So he must have that in his back of his mind. But then I personally believe I won't start with a public company at the beginning.
So that might be a good, interesting advice for the young entrepreneurs as well. So when it comes to our discussion, sir, we heard the word the auditor, and in a part-time we come across the company secretary as well. So what are the roles of those two individuals?
Beautiful. It's very crucial roles, because you need to have a company secretary. First, let's go that, because if you want to register as a private company or even as a public company, it has to go through a secretary. There are in the register of companies certain registered secretaries. Only a lawyer, accountant, and a qualified secretary, there is an institute of secretaries. They only can become. So if you just walk into a place, they might mislead you and say, I can do it. Maybe a lawyer, maybe accountant, but you need to ask them, can I have your registration? Right? Not every lawyer can be that, a secretary of a company. You have to get registered in a thing. So you need to ask, if you go there, please, lawyer or accountant, so and so, can I have your registration with the register of companies? So that's very crucial, because it is the secretary who is actually responsible after that, when you get him. It is he who has to send the annual report. It is through him, via him, that we do that. And that is why it is a board resolution, it's a AGM sometimes, we get the company secretary. You ask the other question, external auditor. I'll explain that. Now, always you need to have an external auditor for any public or private company. Even a private company. You need to have. Now, external auditor is elected at the annual general meeting by the shareholders. Even one or two maybe, but they decide who the shareholders, because external auditor is responsible to the shareholders, and therefore what he does is annually he audits it, and with the annual accounts he gives a report, and we say it is a qualifying report if he says, the auditor says, no, these lacunas were there. Now that means he is not accepting the annual accounts. Now that means danger. Now why it is important is, if you want to go to a bank, Charita, you can't get, they will always ask for, can I have your audited accounts in order to get the loan. So if you don't have an audited account, bank will be reluctant, not reluctant, they won't actually give you a loan, because that is not audited. So, and it all depends the name of the auditor. So if it's like, I don't like to mention names, top class auditors there, right? Immediately the bank or even the shareholders or anyone who want to invest say, this is a good audited account. So this external auditor is a very crucial one.
Right.
If you want to have a very long sustainable one. So but you must have this too if you want to make it a private or a public company.
And so we can advise the young entrepreneurs and who are in need to put up a business, the proper procedure and formalities that they need to follow in order to succeed themselves and to avoid them letting in trouble.
Exactly. The most important thing, you use the word trouble, Charita,
Yes.
right? Because you might have the greatest idea on earth. Now that may be an innovation, invention, something new. Now that you have to be preserved in the first place. For that you need to register your patent and even the trademark. If you have a specific trademark, you need to preserve it. So it's a very simple process. You go there to register a company, there is intellectual property department, and there you can register your patent and trademark. It takes a long process. It is gazetted and takes a very, very long process. But the first thing you do is you try to register, at least in Sri Lanka, even abroad. There are certain entrepreneurs who have registered abroad and earning a lot of money. Because whatever, when it is produced even by others, right, with agreement of course, right, they get a portion as a commission or percentage of it.
Yes.
So they just live on that. The whole life, if it is a good innovation and an invention.
We can't present brand names here, otherwise we could have explained those things
in much more detail. So we have that kind of scenario. So first thing, if it is an innovation and invention, you must make sure that you register that at the intellectual property department office, so that is preserved very clearly, because that's the first step that you need to protect your creativity, because that not everyone has. Because creativity people steal. I mean, you can see if this watch is come out today, a new phone, others will copy it in no time. The entire world, because when it is out in the market, they can copy it. So how to protect that right is by registering yourself in as a patent or a trademark, even a trademark, mind you. So we can't, I mean, without giving names, right? There are some companies like say soft drinks or fizzy drinks, that the name of that is the value. Not the production or the bottles or factory, but that name tag that they have come over the years is actually the value of that. Any product for that matter, in any international product, you can see that. So this is exactly what you should do there. But then after that, it's a process that, as I explained to you, you go and register yourself as a partnership, and that's your choice, as we explained before. Whether how flexible you are, how fluid and how easy you want to be, and then you use to be a register of a patent, trademark, and that kind of a situation.
So exactly. So we understood the proper procedure, and even when entrepreneurs seek the first step, they might fall in trouble, like as Sir explained, the pyramid scams. So we must be aware and following the proper procedure and financing it in the proper way, letting us in a little burden, not that much. We can't put all the things away. We have to take a risk as entrepreneurs. So ladies and gentlemen, through this episode of Law and Order, we discussed about entrepreneurship and initiating a business. So the legal scenarios, the background, the proper procedure that we need to follow in order to let us be successful. So ladies and gentlemen, we will be discussing further on with another episode of Law and Order. So thanking you so very much for joining us with this program, Mr. Prashant Laldi Alvis, President's Counsel, a thorough gentleman and expert in the field, having experience nearly 3 decades. So thank you very much, sir, for joining with us with Law and Order. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned with Law and Order to further strengthen your knowledge with regard to law. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.